Alright, this is our Texas during the Civil War and Reconstruction notes. What we're going to do today is we're going to focus on the battles of the Civil War, both in the United States and in Texas specifically, and some of the early stuff with Reconstruction. At the end of the day, we're going to kind of introduce the fact they had to tie in and write a new constitution, but we're going to focus more on that tomorrow. So as always, copy down all the information that you see and make sure you have it all for your quiz at the end. So the Civil War, in 1860, President Abraham Lincoln is elected and many southern states were irate. Many states seceded from the Union, or the North, and formed the Confederate States of America, or the South. In 1861, the Civil War began with the attack on Fort Sumter in South Carolina, and this began a 4-year war between the North and the South and caused families to fight on both sides over many issues, including slavery, states' rights, and those others that we looked at previously. Now, these are the major battles inside the Civil War that we look at as far as globally on an 8th grade level. The beginning was Fort Sumter, which we talked about earlier. This is the Confederate soldiers began bombing an island fort for 28 hours, causing the Union to surrender. Basically, Lincoln sent troops in to help the troops that were already in there, supplies in the South, and South Carolina decided it was an act of war and began fighting. The first real battle was the First Battle of Bull Run. The Union soldiers were defeated. They basically thought they could just show up and win, and were defeated soundly by General Lee and Stonewall Jackson. The Southern troops were very well trained. They had to fight and use guns quite often for hunting for food, so it was no big deal to be able to shoot at targets, while people in the North, not so much. They were so ill prepared that they retreated, running through a crowd of people who came to watch it as entertainment, and really embarrassed the North. The next major battle that we had was the Battle of Antietam, which is the bloodiest battle of the Civil War. And the North declared victory after Lee withdrew. Basically, nobody won, but since Lee retreated first, the North claimed it as a victory. Really and truly is a flat field, like a football field, that they're fighting on. Many Texas soldiers held their own there, but overall it was just a really bad situation for the South, and many people died. Because of the Battle of Antietam claiming the victory there, Abraham Lincoln was able to pass his Emancipation Proclamation, and this proclamation freed all the slaves in the Confederate territory. It was written in 1863, so about midway through the war. And then we had the Battle of Gettysburg shortly after that, which is a 3-day battle that happened by accident. The Union defeated the Confederate soldiers after 3 days, and Lee lost so many troops he could no longer defeat the Union. And then the next one that we had was the Siege of Vicksburg, where General Grant first made his name for himself, and the Union defeated the Confederate troops and gained access to the Mississippi River. By cutting off the Mississippi River, it cut the South, or the Confederate States, in two, and really hampered their ability to win. And over about another year and a half, 2 years, they continued to try to fight, but finally Lee realized that it was just over with, and all they were going to do is kill lots more people. And so he's going to surrender at Appomattox Courthouse, and that is going to end the Civil War officially in April of 1865. These are just 3 major battles that we had inside of Texas. The first was the Battle of Galveston, which happened shortly after the war began. The Union began to blockade Texas ports, so they were just trying to block it off where they couldn't get any cotton out of Texas and go trade in other parts of the world and make money. April 1862, a Union fleet sailed into Galveston Harbor, and the Confederate forces retreated and got out of there. But Confederate General John Magruder recaptured it by converting steamboats to gunboats by lining the sides with cotton bales. And the Confederate troops defeated Union forces in Galveston, forcing the city of Galveston to become a Confederate city. There were still a lot of Union sympathizers, but now they had to follow the ways of the South. Next, we had the Battle of Sabine Pass. 1863, about midway through the war, the U.S. made plans to invade Texas. Union General William Franklin and 5,000 Union troops hoped to land an army near Sabine, and then attack Houston. They were defeated. The Confederate soldiers are pretty well entrenched in Texas, and it was very difficult for anybody to get in there. And then the final battle we're going to look at is the Battle of Palomito Ranch. And Lee surrendered in April 1865. Um, but word takes a long time. We didn't have cell phones, didn't have internet, so people had to get there by word of mouth. 2 months later, after the war officially ended, the Union invades Brownsville, but the Confederate soldiers defeat them, and they take all of the Union soldiers under their control. Later, about a couple weeks later, here comes a Union messenger and had official papers showing that the Confederate soldiers, the war was over with, and that everybody was to release, and that the people that were just captured, now were in control of the city. Now, we had this idea of Reconstruction, what to do after the war is over with, and that's kind of what this next section is. To be readmitted to the United States, Texas was forced to do many things. First, we had these political effects. We had martial law instituted, where the military controlled Texas until a new constitution was passed. And we're going to look more at that constitution tomorrow because it's very, very wordy, and I didn't want to take more time. Approved the following amendments: the 13th Amendment, which freed all slaves and stopped it from happening again, no more slavery inside the United States. The 14th Amendment: all people born in the U.S. are citizens, especially for former slaves, and all have equal rights. So all former slaves are now free and are now citizens of the United States. And then all African American males, with the 15th Amendment, are able to vote. Also, one of the things they're going to do is start removing the Native Americans as kind of an add-in. Economic effects: growth of tenant farming and sharecropping, which we talked about before. That's the whole idea of the former slaves are now working with their former masters to create new territory and farm together, work together, so that way everybody has a job and is successful. Expansion of railroads, and the cattle industry begins to boom. The social effects: concern over the future of freedmen or former slaves. A lot of people are concerned, what do we do? How do we educate them? How do we help them adjust to freedom now? We had the idea of Juneteenth, this holiday that's celebrated in Texas on June 19th, 1865, is the day the Emancipation Proclamation reaches Texas. General Gordon steps off his ship, he reads it, steps on his ship, sails off. But that is the day the Emancipation Proclamation reaches Texas, and now it becomes a holiday, which is still celebrated today. We had the Freedmen's Bureau established, and this is the bureau that of the government that basically helps the former slaves go through and have rights and helps them adjust to life. We had the black codes that are used to segregate the South, and so that's how we get the colored water fountains and the white water fountains, colored schools, white schools. Then we get the formation of the Ku Klux Klan, or the KKK, which is a very dark history in the United States, where a lot of white people, really murdered African Americans just because of their race. And then immigration to Texas continues to increase. The final thing was just our first governor following the Civil War. This is the guy that helped us get back into the United States and was elected. He was the 19th governor of Texas, a Confederate. This is Sol Ross, or Lawrence Sullivan Ross. He was a Confederate States Army general during the American Civil War, and a president of the Agricultural and Mechanical College of Texas, now Texas A&M University. So once you finish writing all these, we're going to take another quiz, and good luck on that. Make sure to use your notes.